The stage was set for a grand diplomatic performance as former President Donald Trump arrived in London, aiming to secure a post-Brexit trade deal and reassert American influence. His team envisioned headlines of royal handshakes and bold pronouncements, but the reality was far different. The streets swelled with tens of thousands of protesters, their chants and signs creating a powerful counter-narrative. Instead of a showcase of strength, the visit became a spectacle of dissent, with the Trump baby blimp floating over Parliament Square. News coverage shifted from diplomatic triumph to public relations crisis, overshadowing any talk of trade agreements. The British government maintained decorum but faced the awkward reality of hosting a controversial guest amid widespread opposition. The visit, intended as a masterclass in political optics, exposed the fragility of spectacle-driven diplomacy. Grand gestures proved vulnerable to the force of public opinion, a force that cannot be managed or ignored. The intended message of American power was lost, replaced by images of protest and ridicule. The visit became a case study in the limitations of relying on optics when confronted with genuine public sentiment. In the end, the spectacle of dissent overwhelmed the spectacle of power. While cameras captured the drama of Trump's visit, a more significant story unfolded quietly in the background. On one side was the politics of spectacle, banquets, motorcades, and symbolic gestures designed for headlines. On the other, a quieter agenda focused on infrastructure, innovation, and investment was taking shape. The real power in the digital age is wielded in boardrooms and data centers, not just palaces. Trump's approach reflected a 20th century model of diplomacy as theater, while the emerging agenda was about economic and technological competitiveness. Multinational corporations and the flow of capital now shape national fortunes more than state visits. The headlines about protests and pageantry would fade, but the impact of strategic investments would endure. The world saw a split screen, the past's politics of personality versus the future's politics of progress. The true story was not the fleeting spectacle, but the permanent economic changes being made. The UK's week illustrated that while pageantry grabs attention, it's strategic investment that shapes the future. Substance, not spectacle, is what endures. Amid the diplomatic drama, Microsoft quietly announced a £10 billion investment to expand the UK's artificial intelligence infrastructure. This concrete commitment would create thousands of high-skilled jobs and position the UK as a European AI leader. The investment included new data centers, AI research funding, and nationwide skills training. Unlike political promises, this move had immediate, tangible impact, signaling global confidence in the UK's economic fundamentals. Microsoft's decision was a vote for the country's talent and research, not its political theater. By building the foundation for future economic growth, the UK gained a critical competitive edge. The announcement highlighted the power of multinational corporations to shape destinies beyond the reach of governments. In the end, a quiet boardroom decision had more lasting impact than any state visit. The contrast between Trump's visit and Microsoft's investment reveals the true nature of modern economic power. Trump's approach relied on leverage and negotiation, viewing international relations as a zero-sum game. In contrast, Microsoft's investment was about partnership and mutual benefit, choosing the UK for its talent and stability. This positive-sum model creates value for both sides, enriching economies and building lasting advantages. State visits are fleeting. Multi-billion-dollar investments create enduring realities. Data centers and research outlast political cycles, supporting families and driving innovation. The real power play happened in boardrooms, not palaces, through strategic decisions that build the future economy. True national strength comes from attracting capital, nurturing innovation, and building a skilled workforce. The UK's success with Microsoft showed that a favorable business climate yields greater rewards than political posturing. In the end, economic strategy outshined diplomatic spectacle. The future belongs to those who invest, not just those who perform. While the UK celebrated its AI windfall, Canada made a strategic move of its own. Prime Minister Trudeau's government unilaterally lifted retaliatory tariffs on US goods, imposed in response to Trump-era trade policies. This wasn't surrender, but a calculated pivot to lower costs for Canadians and signal a commitment to free trade. The move positioned Canada as a reasonable, forward-thinking partner, contrasting sharply with US protectionism. By de-escalating the trade dispute, Canada seized the moral high ground and put pressure on Washington to reciprocate. This was leverage through good faith, not confrontation. Canada's action was also part of a broader strategy to diversify trade and reduce dependence on the US. Pursuing new agreements with the EU and Pacific Rim, Canada signaled it was open for business. Lifting tariffs sent a message. Canada champions the rules-based order and is securing its economic future. It was a quiet, decisive step in an unpredictable world. Sometimes the most strategic moves make the least noise. The US and Canada's contrasting strategies offer a lesson in economic policy. The Trump administration's aggressive tariffs aimed to protect industries and force concessions, but created confrontation and uncertainty. This approach disrupted supply chains and raised costs for consumers and businesses. Canada, by lifting tariffs, prioritized economic efficiency and free trade, recognizing that protectionism often backfires. Tariffs may shield one sector, but harm many others and strain alliances. Canada's focus was on building bridges, not walls, making its economy more dynamic and attractive to investment. Tariff wars create instability and deter long-term growth, risking isolation for the US. In contrast, open trade fosters stability, innovation, and prosperity. By positioning itself as a reliable partner, Canada invested in its global brand and future. The headlines may favor drama, but sustainable growth comes from openness and cooperation. The real winners are those who play for the long term. The events of this week in September 2025 offer a clear lesson. Enduring strategy outweighs short-term spectacle. Trump's state visit, designed for headlines, was quickly overshadowed by deeper economic and technological shifts. The protests and pageantry filled the news, but their impact faded fast. The real story was in the quiet, strategic decisions shaping the future. Microsoft's AI investment and Canada's trade pivot were moves for a generation, not a news cycle. These actions built lasting value and reinforced the importance of rules-based partnerships. The difference between tactics and strategy became clear. One wins headlines, the other wins the future. Optics-driven approaches are fragile, easily undermined by events or public opinion. True influence comes from patient, forward-looking planning and tangible investment. The leaders who understand this will thrive. The rest will be left debating yesterday's headlines. In the end, strategy, not spectacle, shapes the world to come.